Hey there, guys! Welcome to X-Rated Talk Productions. Now, I want to talk about the trailer for the Rampage movie, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that came out earlier this weekend at the Justice League premiere. Yeah. All right, now, this is, of course, Rampage, based on the originally starting in the '80s arcade games, where you played as a giant gorilla, a giant wolfman type creature, and a giant lizard. You know, Godzilla, the Wolfman, and King Kong. This trailer shows us Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson treating his buddy George, a white orangutan, who gets infected by some gas. And him and a couple of other creatures that we're seeing in the trailer, possibly more, have been infected and have basically turned into giant rampaging creatures. That's the trailer. Now, right off the bat, I want to say, I kind of like this trailer. I didn't like it as much on the first viewing, but after the second and third, it kind of grew on me. Maybe it was the song, I don't know. But I liked this thing, generally. Now, I want to talk about the key differences between this and the games. Right off the bat, the main creature, the first creature you can choose from, has always been George, the big brown King Kong monster type creature. All right. In order to talk about that, I have to tell you that originally in the games, you start out as people who get infected by soda or something like that. I know in Rampage Total Destruction it was soda that turned them into monsters. But yeah, it's people into monsters. Now, this movie seems to be showing them as, well, is showing them as animals who get turned into larger versions of them. Cool. It's different. Now, upon individual differences for the creatures, George in this is white and seems to speak sign language. Ralph, instead of being a big blue wolfman type creature who walks on two legs, is a giant wolf. And Lizzie is an alligator. So, yeah, those are the differences. Now, I've got a big feeling this movie is some Warner Brothers owned movie. It's going to get kind of real political, movie political. Now, right now, this is a Warner Brothers movie, like I said. Warner Brothers currently is sharing the rights to several giant monster movies with Legendary and Universal. Alright, and those giant monsters on the, let's call it the Monsterverse, the Universal's Monsterverse that they're working on, has King Kong and Godzilla, a giant ape and a giant lizard. I think that's why these two creatures are physically different. Because you make a big brown monkey rampaging through a city, you think, and it takes place in Chicago, my hometown. Weird. Yeah. Through a city, people are going to think King Kong. You show a giant lizard rampaging through a city, you think Godzilla. That's why we had to kind of change these. Because Universal's making another movie with giant monsters who are attacking the city and or being attacked by the military. The reason for Ralph's change is most likely has something to do with Universal working with Warner Brothers, also on the Monsterverse movies. And Universal is trying to create their own universe of movie monsters. One of those monsters being the Wolfman. So that's why all three of the monsters are very physically different than. Which is why George is white and speaks sign language. Well, is white basically. Ralph is more of a regular wolf, and Lizzie is a completely different creature. Especially considering in the game Total Destruction, there was a crocodile creature called Croc. So, that's why this is. Tonally speaking, this is also very different from the games, which have something of a, cheesy, monster movie vibe, which is, all right. It's always worked for the series. So this is going for much more serious, and even in the trailers, it sort of describes it as, even in descriptions, it's essentially Jurassic World meets like King Kong or something, which I see, or Planet of the Apes meets Jurassic World. Speaking of which, in this modern day, especially after we just had the last Planet of the Apes movie, and Planet of the Apes movies seem to be getting only better and better. This isn't our first time seeing an ape-like creature using sign language. Some could say that it's ripping it off. Maybe it is a little. You could have had him just having sort of a speaking relationship with George, but to directly have him doing sign language feels a little bit like a ripoff. Just pointing that out. Yeah. Like I said, I overall like the trailer. Even if I didn't at first. I like monster movies. And monster movies have been coming back in these past couple of years. Giant robots and monster movies. And giant robot monster movies. Versus monster movies. So yeah, it's kind of cool. The biggest thing that sort of worries me about this movie is, well, two things that are sort of related is, the Rampage games have never been the biggest video game series. It's only been, like, 3 or 4, I think, actual games. The big 3 being Rampage Total Destruction, and World Tour, where I think Universal Tour was like an expansion. So there's only been probably an actual handful of these games. It's never been the biggest, which maybe the company can use to its advantage and just sort of do whatever they want. Create a big movie that just so happens to be attached to the license. Or this could hurt it because most people don't even know about it as a video game. Prince of Persia sort of had this problem. But at least Prince of Persia has had a lot of games. That's risky. My other big concern about this, and this is more of a social concern, is that in the year 2017, it isn't easy to advertise a game where you're destroying buildings and cities. That's the world we live in these days. Even when Total Destruction came out, it was still sort of risky. That was like 6 years ago. So, I'm just worried about the social implications, especially this year, we've had a lot of terrorist attacks, Vegas stuff, lots of nuclear threats. It just seems like a strange thing to advertise a game series about destroying cities in a world like this. And it doesn't seem like there's any real games coming out for this. Although I did hear that some of these characters appear in the Lego Dimensions. That's the closest thing to these things. This is the closest thing that this series has had to having new games. So, just some food for thought. I've been talking about this for quite a while. Well, thank you so much for watching, and talk to you later. Bye-bye.